Listeners, be aware this episode contains mature subject matter, such as intimate partner violence and abuse, the d4vd phenomena, and my own personal journey with intimate partner violence. Any opinions or views expressed in this episode belong to the speaker. The singer d4vd has not been charged or convicted of any crime at the time of this recording. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
Get it! Believe you can create, see it as innate in the dream room. Yeah, we're bringing dreams alive in the place to shine, the dream room. Yeah.
Welcome, dreamers. You're in the Dream Room with Amitra, and today's special guest is Dr. Lee E. Ross, a heavyweight in the world of criminology and domestic violence studies, a PhD graduate from Rutgers University. He now serves as professor of criminal justice at University at Central Florida, where for decades he has taught, researched, and written about intimate partner violence, race, crime and justice, and social control theory. Before academia, Dr. Ross spent several years as a federal law enforcement officer with the United States Customs Service, a background that gives him a rare in the system, then dissect the system vantage. In recent years, Dr. Ross authored Musical Lyrics and Domestic Violence, the Soundtracks of Our Lives, in which he deconstructs popular music lyrics across genres, from rock to hip-hop to country, to reveal how they reflect, encode, or even perpetuate domestic violence and intimate partner trauma. Today on the Dream Room with Amitra, we dive deep, not just into lyrics, but lived experience. Welcome, Dr. Ross.
Thank you, Amitra. It's my pleasure to be here.
You came from a large family, if I have the facts correct, and described growing up with conflict all around. Why did these early domestic violence dynamics impel you to not just study domestic violence, but to build a career around unraveling it?
Well, that's a great question. Yeah, Amitra, I'm one of 15 children. Sadly, my mother had 2 stillbirths, so technically I could be one of 17, right? But I'm one of 15 and I'm number 13. And yeah, when you're in a large household, now granted, all of us were in the same household at one time. My mother spent 21 years having children, so you dissect them or you divide them into half, maybe 8 or 9 at a time. Yeah, of those who are in the household, obviously there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of personality differences, people trying to get to know each other, some are closer to some than others. And parents who, as they grow older, aren't able to mediate disputes or conflicts as they did when they were younger. So you find a lot of sibling abuse, you find things like that. You find a father who is emotionally abusive to my mother, father who's threatening to all of us if we didn't fall in line, and so forth. So yeah, growing up in that environment, you just see a lot of conflict, and you wonder where does it come from and how do you stop it?
As a former federal law enforcement officer turned academic and advocate, how has that law and order background influenced your view of domestic violence, especially where criminal justice systems often fail survivors?
Oh, that's a really, well, actually, that's a tough question because my role as a federal law enforcement officer, it was in the Department of the Treasury back in, 94 to 91, and this is prior to 2001 when the government agencies realigned themselves, right? Department of Homeland Security was developed in the aftermath of 9/11. Before that, U.S. Customs was entirely a different entity. But as it relates to domestic violence, I think the closest we came to in that aspect would be something like sex trafficking, right? Okay. And today, of course, we have a lot of rules of the book that kind of protect victims who are immigrants, if you will, or undocumented immigrants who've been a victim of domestic violence. And as you may know, there are special visas that we can get them to help, I guess, prosecute their abuser. So that would be my insight into that line of domestic violence, how it intersects with law enforcement.
Well, let's get into your book. Writing a book that tears apart the lyrics of beloved songs can often offend fans or artists and even communities. Did you face any resistance personally or professionally when you decided to expose how music can normalize or romanticize abuse?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. No, but let me give a little context of how the book came about.
Okay.
I teach, of course, domestic violence courses, and each semester I have guest speakers. And one semester, I'm going to say about maybe 10 years ago, maybe even longer, a guest speaker came to my class. She was a victim's advocate, right? She works out of the prosecutor's office. She worked with victims of domestic violence. So she would do a spiel, but in one of her spiels, she played a record by Music Soul Child, and the record was called Teach Me How to Love, right? And she played that song because so many young people, like teenagers who go through dating violence or in love or infatuated for the first time, some of them don't really know what love looks like because some of them have not been shown love, and some of them kind of misconstrue love with issues of power control and what love really means. So the record kind of resonated with the audience. I mean, the students kind of related to it. So I said, thanks, Michelle, for that wonderful display. And from that experience, I said, well, gee, if Music Soul Child can be deconstructed to point out aspects of love and relationships, which is a lot about domestic violence. If you think about it, from the origin to the end, can you do that with other songs? What other songs are out there, right? So I said, what I can do from that visit is I can go online. I can identify all the songs that have anything to do with domestic violence, and these songs would be sung by some of the world's greatest artists like Beyonce or Michael or Dolly Parton or anyone you could think of, LL Cool J, DMX, the whole nine yards.
Tupac.
Prince. Tupac, of course. Yeah, I have Tupac in here too, right? So all these artists, I'm saying, what do they have to say about domestic violence? Now, here's a caveat. Some artists, as you know, Amitra, get their writing done by other people, right? So it may not be their thoughts or their mindset, but it's a piece of it's a narrative that they want to project. Right?
Sure.
So is it of their inkling? Is it of their mindset? Anyway, they sang the song, right?
Right.
So these are people who identify who sang a song across certain genres, whether the genre is country, whether it's rock and roll, whether it's R&B, whether it's pop, or whether it's hip hop. We have artists from all those different genres, and the songs that they sing about domestic violence and the lyrics. Now, in this book, if you know, you cannot print the lyrics, right? There are copyright concerns. And for the publisher to get access to that, they got to pay like $1 billion, right? So we didn't have $1 billion in the budget. So they said, why don't you do this? Don't try to steal the lyrics, Professor Ross. Why don't you just link the song to a YouTube video? And that's what we did. So in the book, you'll see highlighted songs in, I think, terrible blue-looking fonts, right? But what that does, if you have the online edition, it links to an actual song or video. So you can hear the song as you're reading the text to give you even more context. So through those 9 chapters, we talk about what music is, music theory, music of domestic violence in general. And in chapter 10, we get into music therapy and how music, while we're understanding and deconstructing to see how it relates to domestic violence and every manifestation of domestic violence, right? The whole continuum from child abuse to sexual assault to molestation to dating violence to spousal violence to wife abuse to elder abuse, the whole continuum, right? So in chapter 10, we talk about music therapy and how that can help victims of domestic violence restore themselves, be rehabilitated, and get them in the right frame of mind to go forward, to make them the survivors that they are. So that's what the book's about.
Got it. Did you find that certain genres are more likely to perpetuate a violent perspective, or did you find it was the same all across the board?
Well, let me point to some research. There's some research that looks at population that asks them, you hear these songs, you see these lyrics, and you hear the song, and we're trying to measure aggressiveness, right? And does it influence your ability to act in an aggressive manner? And does it also shape your perception of women and how they're to be treated? And what some of the research shows early on in this book is that if you listen to certain genres, like hip hop, right, that tends to, diminish women in some respect, by calling them the bees and the hoes, and all that stuff. Does that alter people's perception of how women should be treated? And people who listen to that, who would jive into that or gyrate into that, were more likely to be more aggressive towards women than those who listen to other genres. And that's pretty fair. to say. So certain
That's
lyrics evoke
concerning.
certain sentiments and emotions and or behaviors that are more prevalent in some genres than others.
Hmm.
And it's not to indict hip hop because
No.
they all has the potential to do it, but that's what it is, right?
Hmm. Through your work as a witness and facilitator for Batter's intervention program, what
Hmm.
recurring stories or patterns stand out to you?
Wow, that's another great question. We get all these great questions from.
Oh, sorry.
No, no, no. One great thing that stands out, obviously, and sadly, Amitra, is the demographics of the people who are court ordered into Batter's intervention programs. As an African American who studies issues of race, crime, and justice as well, and you as a person of color, and so forth, most of the people in these groups are basically either black and or Latino. There are Caucasians in the
Mm,
group, and Asians, and perhaps Native Americans to make it whole, but predominantly it kind of reflects the incarceration system, right? You go to any jail or prison, and the predominant demographic, sadly, is young black males. So that kind of stands out to me. Also, what stands out to me are repeat offenders, right? It's not a first time,
yes.
these are frequent flyers, we call them, right? You're not a first time offender.
Yep.
So if you are administering a bad intervention program, the curriculum or the regimen you prepare for them has to be different. It's not one size fits all, right? You're a first time offender, but Joe Blow is not. He's been there and done that, right?
Hmm.
One young man in my program said he's been in so many programs in his life that he feels like he's been programmed all his life. So that's where he was coming from, right? So yeah, but another pattern I also pick up on is a lack of responsibility. It's a denial
Hmm.
of victimizing others, that they're like not owning this. That wasn't me. And you see the typical excuses week in and week out of people who refuse to accept responsibility for what they've done. And before they graduate from this program and get their certificate, or as we say, to get off paper, right? A lot of people are on probation, i.e., they're
Hmm.
court ordered. Some of them are ordered in lieu of prosecution, right? We call it a deferred prosecution. Well, before they get their certificate, they have to show some type of change attitude, right?
Hmm.
They pay, that was me. They pay every week to attend the program as part of their, I guess, fees that are assessed by the courts. And they have to show that they've changed, basically. So that you see, in the saddest case I've seen was a minister, a guy, a man of the Holy Word, a guy who preached the Bible, who was quarter into
Hmm.
this program. And my co-facilitator was a female. She was older than me, and she wasn't buying his story. And she would call him out every week. She would be in your face calling you out if you threw a line of shit, right? Period, because she wasn't here because
Yeah.
she's been there and done. So you had that going. People were in denial. People were misrepresenting themselves, and people who quite frankly would surprise you that they're in there in the first place. And you would be surprised if I wound up in there, right? Because I'm someone who's taught domestic
Hmm.
violence. I have a beautiful family. I don't violate my wife. She don't violate me. Good child children. We don't corporal punishment, all that stuff. And Professor Ross is totally against domestic violence. So if he wound up in a BIP program, you'd ask for why, what went wrong, right?
Yes. What happened?
So yeah. And what are some typical reasons that you've heard over the years? Some typical excuses
Excuses.
as to why they did what they did.
As a person who has been through domestic violence that actually resulted in attempted murder in my life,
Right.
I I remember that he said to me before he began the attack, if you don't love me anymore, if you don't want me anymore, then this baby has to go. I was pregnant at the time.
Oh wow.
And he also said, if I can't have you, no one can have you.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I feel like it's like control and literal ownership. Um, when, in fact, the night that we got married, like he started being really violent and he was like tracing my skin with a knife and things like that and he literally told me, do you know what this means? You're my wife and I own you now. You're mine. You belong to me.
Well,
And
so the marriage
it
might
felt
have gave
like
a
the
daylight.
ugliest thing I ever heard, you know? So I really feel like it's this power and control thing.
And so early in your marriage,
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
but people would ask, they would ask you, well, didn't you see the warning signs before you married him? And you'd say
yeah.
what?
There were warning signs, but like you say, I was a teenager. So
Okay.
when I first got involved, and so I didn't know what love was, you know. And I grew up in a home where corporal punishment was used to extreme level,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
had been violated as a child,
Mm-hmm.
sexually and physically. So I think that prepared me to be a good person to end up in that kind of a relationship, right? Because it's just basically
Right.
an extension of my childhood.
That
Hmm.
is, wow. That speaks volumes. That actually speaks to two songs that I have that actually speaks to the intimate part and the homicide of the threat of it. One is by Eve, and what's her
Okay.
song called? Love is Blind, right? Right? Love is
Hmm.
Blind. What Eve does is that she defends her best friend who her
Hmm.
boyfriend wound up killing, right? And she
Wow.
basically releases all of her anger and frustration and vile on this guy, and she hates him worse than she hated anybody in her life, right? And she could kill him
Yeah.
dead as a doornail, right? You know, for what he did. So,
Hmm.
but he's saying that his girl was trapped because she couldn't see the tree for the forest, right? The forest was love, but the tree was
Okay.
this evil guy, right? So love is blind. But there's
Yeah.
another one also, you know, Call Me Guilty by Jasmine Sullivan, and here she's in a position of contemplating intimate partner homicide because she wants to kill him before he kills her because she can see all the warning signs and she's trapped in a cycle of violence, right? Where you go through what?
Yeah.
The trauma, then you go through the honeymoon, then you go to the, you know, the feelings of contrition, all this stuff you make up. It goes cycles round and around and around, right? So she could see this coming and she wants to say, well, how do I release myself from what could happen to me? And she's contemplating
Hmm.
on killing someone. So, I mean,
Mm.
I can't have you, no one will. Well, that just shows that some men think that they have a right to a woman's body, that they possess them, both physically, spiritually, socially, financially, economically, in every respect. And that's just a page out of
Hmm.
male patriarchy, period.
Hmm.
Because we live in a
Wow.
very patriarchal system. One of the articles that I wrote was Religion and Domestic Violence, a Double-Edged Sword, right? And we look at all the
Hmm.
precepts in the Bible that talks about your honor your husband as long as you live and till death do us part. What God put together, there's no man put
Doesn't it say
asunder.
obey? Does it say obey? Or is that
Obey,
from the
yeah, yeah.
marriage?
It says all of that,
Yeah,
right? So
obey.
we say that the Bible is, yes, Amitra. We say the Bible is what written by man, interpreted by men, delivered by men. Undoubtedly, it's a male
Hmm.
Bible, right? And women are kind of relegated
Hmm.
to a subservient status. And we talk about the notion of submission. What does mutual submission mean? Well, we think it means that, you know, the two people are mutually submitting to each other.
Yes.
But the way well, some people think is that women submit unto their husbands. And so all that stuff kind
Hmm.
of shows patriarchal nature of the Bible, but not just the Bible, in society at large, right? The patriarchal
Hmm.
nature of institutions, whether it's the job market, the government, the whole nine yards, right? The patriarchal nature. So
Hmm.
if a guy owns you and thinks he has a right to your body, that's just male patriarchy, plain and simple.
Well, what's interesting too, on the subject of religion, we came from the same religion.
Okay.
And after it happened and he was in prison, his mother called me, his mother, who was the victim of his father's domestic violence. I mean, he used to beat her in the streets, right?
Right,
And the other
right.
brothers and sisters would come over, and their friends would come over and pull him off her. And so she left him, but she's calling me with my ex on the three-way, and I didn't even know at the beginning of our conversation that he was on the line. And she was trying to convince me and tell me that God wouldn't want me to leave my husband. And I said, well, my
Ah,
husband didn't give me life, and God did. And since he was trying to take the life that God gave me, I'm sure he's fine with my decision.
right.
Yeah.
That is amazing. You know what you just remind me of?
Yeah.
You just remember the movie What Love Got to Do with It. It was Tina Turner's story, right?
Yes.
It was
Mm-hmm.
what's her name? Larry Lawrence Fishburne was
Oh,
Ike,
yeah.
and what's her name
Mm-hmm.
played Tina?
Angela
You
Bassett?
know her. Yes,
Angela
Angela
Bassett?
Bassett, right?
Yes.
And if you look at that
Yes.
movie again, she is being brutalized and beaten repeatedly, right? And she wants to get away from
Yes.
Ike. And what does she do? she wants to. She goes to the Greyhound bus station, and she and her
Mm-hmm.
baby are on that bus. And guess who tells Ike where she is? Her mother. Her
Mm,
mother.
mm, mm.
Now, what does that tell you? It tells you that some batterers are so manipulative and so conniving and so Mr. Fake can get close to your own mother and have them appear more credible to them than their own daughter for whatever reason.
Yes.
And in this case, it was money
So,
also, right? Because money was a driving force,
mm-hmm,
right? Screw what
mm-hmm,
she talking about.
mm-hmm.
Let's get some money here. And the money is coming in, so let's not mess up a good thing. So I thought it
Right.
was a powerful, that was pretty powerful.
Yeah, but that it's just so sick, like that. It's so cyclical. This cycle of sickness, you
Yes.
know, where
Yes.
it's definitely a societal problem that we all have to look at together.
Right. And some people think that, well, if my mother endured it, well, I can endure it. My mother got to it, well, so will I.
Mm-hmm,
But what you're also talking about is an intergenerational transmission of violence, because, like,
mm-hmm,
where's this coming from? Well, was it learned, right? It's learned behavior, basically.
mm-hmm,
Because in our realm in domestic violence, we think all domestic violence is learned behavior, right? In order for
mm-hmm.
Professor Ross to break the cycle of violence, he can't do what his father did. Right? He just can't. He got to
Correct.
recognize what his father did and not do that to his own children. But a lot of people who grew up in violent households, like myself and some of my siblings, they're likely to perpetrate domestic violence or be a victim of domestic violence. And in my own family, I can tell you some of my brothers were perpetrators of domestic violence, and some of my sisters, unfortunately, were victims of domestic violence. So there is a relationship there. It's not a deep fake thing on AI that you may read about these days. This is a
No.
real problem, and it's a real reality. How violence is transmitted from one generation to another, intergenerational transmission of violence. That's very real.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can I just throw some?
Yes, please do. Please do.
Yeah, I'll just start some songs. These are songs that my students always tell me that relate to domestic violence. Right? I asked them on like the first or second week of class, give me some songs that resonate with you about domestic violence. And these are the top 10 they always come up with. Face Down by Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. It's basically talking about men who feel empowered when they beat women, right? I mean, they get a rise out of it,
Mm,
right? Here's something for you that you may not
mm-hmm,
like to hear. We think, or I think, Professor Ross thinks that some men derive pleasure from beating women. Because Professor Ross
that
thinks
I
that
would agree
whatever
with that.
is pleasurable, the behavior can be repeated, right? It has something to do with what's released
Mm-hmm.
in your brain. It's called dopamine, right? Dopamine is a
Yep.
pleasure hormone that your brain releases that accompanies any pleasurable acts, whether it's winning at the casino, whether it's sexual intercourse, whether it's hitting the home run to walk-off home run to win a game, whether it's dropping the winning basket, right? Your brain
Yep.
releases that great feeling euphoric chemical, right?
Yes.
Now, if some men get pleasure from beating women because they're sadomasochistic, who's to say that just like you be addicted to all these other things, like addicted gamblers, addicted alcoholics, they're addicted to that, right? They're addicted to it.
Sure.
Who's to say that
Mm-hmm.
you're not addicted to the pleasure you get from beating up someone?
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
that's the scary part about it. That's the nasty, scary part about it because one, we don't measure that. Two, they don't call that in court unless you get to a battered women's syndrome defense at trial or something. So it's a nasty conversation to go into, but in my world, I think it happens, to be quite honest.
Yes. I would agree. It reminds me of David's lyrics. David, the rising artist that had his underage girlfriend's body found in the front of his Tesla in his trunk.
Really?
He writes in Romantic Homicide, and in my opinion, this is opinion,
Hmm.
he did say online, it's been shown in the news, that he wrote in Discord chats that he watched gore and that watched it so much that he became desensitized to it. And so his first song that went really viral was called Romantic Homicide. And in it, he
Romantic
says,
homicide.
in yeah, and in it he says, "In the back of my mind you died, and I didn't even cry. No, not a single tear. And I'm sick of waiting patiently for someone that won't ever arrive. In the back of my mind, I killed you and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true. I hate you.
Wow.
And he's writing this before he even had a relationship with Celeste, his victim, allegedly.
Wow.
And
That
so
is
I
deep.
think they fantasize about it before it happens.
Right. We call that parasocial behavior. We have a relationship with someone who we really don't know, and we conjure up
Hmm.
what we want the relationship to be like, right? A parasocial behavior.
Hmm.
So that's what we call that. But I love the lyrics because, wow, I have to. Does he have a real name he goes by other than David, or just his?
David is his real name, but he spells it D4vd, and his last, well, what is
Oh,
the
okay, I
rest of
think
his
I
name?
said that.
David
D4D.
Burke, I think. I don't even remember.
Okay, well, no
Um,
worries, no worries. 'Cause I tell you, I run into so many rap artists. You ask me, what's their real name? You got me. Some of them I know, but a lot of them I would have to look it up, basically. I have to be honest. Okay, so going on. Face down. I love the way you lie, Rihanna and Eminem. Well, that way you probably get one, right? Breaking Dishes by Rihanna. Guilty Conscience by Eminem, which is interesting because I mean, well, anyway. Never Again by Nickelback, Skyscraper, Demi Lovato, Before He Cheats, Carrie Underwood, right? And you've heard that, right?
I love that
She's
song.
exactly right because she wants revenge, right?
Yeah.
Creep by Radiohead, Goodbye Earl by the Dixie Chicks, right?
Hmm.
That's it's a part of homicide right there. All She Ever
Yeah.
Wanted was out of Love Is Blind, Eve, Gunpowder and Lead, Miranda Lambert, right?
Hmm.
Gunpowder and Lead, right? She's sitting on her country porch with a shotgun because he's getting out of jail and he's on his way, and she's
And
waiting
she's
for
waiting
him,
for him,
right?
smoking a
She's waiting
cigarette with
for
a
him.
gun in her hand.
She's cocked and loaded, right? Because she's saying
Hmm.
you slapped around like a rag dog before, but that ain't happening no more, right?
No
So
more.
well, just to play with this, I've asked my class, well, gee, was she contemplating intimate partner homicide without provocation? How do you think they would answer that?
I think someone will say she had it coming. He had it
Well,
coming. I mean,
he had it coming. He had it
you
coming.
know, but
He
he
had it
earned
coming.
that.
There you
It's
go.
karma. But I think
Here's
other,
right? Okay.
if I was a student in your class, I'd probably say, I mean, that's a joke, and
Of
I,
course.
I think that she's contemplating homicide without immediate provocation.
Right. So
There's a history
she's
there.
she
She
right. So
might
she's
she
victimizing
might
him
have
before he
battered woman
victimizes her.
syndrome. Yeah.
She may. Right. Right. But those who go
She
through
may
that
be
have what they call
operating from a deep-seated fear of life or death, so fight or flight, I'm
yes.
trying to say. Hmm.
Exactly right. And the syndrome part is that something you can see coming and it's reoccurring again. And you can see this and you want to stop it because it goes in a syndrome. So battered women syndrome, what we found is that people are in a state of learned helplessness, right? A state of learned
Yes.
helplessness. They learn that they try to escape, but they can't. So therefore they're resolved to be
Mm-hmm.
helpless, right? So Tina Turner, back
Mm-hmm.
to her,
Mm-hmm.
she learned that she was helpless to escape from Ike because although she tried, everything failed, right? So that's what
Yeah.
battered women syndrome is about. And you can show that in a court with expert witnesses and you prevail. And that's the only way that battered women defense prevails in a court of law. Because oftentimes they say, well, if you killed him, that means you're in imminent danger, right? But
Yes.
looking at the case, Miss Amitra, you were not in imminent danger. He didn't have a gun pointed at your face. You got rid of him while he lay
Yet.
sleeping. He
I
was
would say
sleeping.
yet.
He got pissy drunk and fell asleep. And you said, uh-oh, you shouldn't have done that because here's my chance. And so you blow him away,
Burning
right?
bed. Yes.
Pretty bad. That's exactly right. And the Framingham Eight is like that also. There's a film called The Framingham Eight about people in Massachusetts who all killed their abuser. And five of them
Mm.
got away with it because they successfully showed battered women syndrome. So yeah, but yes,
Mm-hmm.
but burning bed, yes, absolutely. So the whole 9 yards. Are you in imminent danger when you did that? Objectively, the court would say no. But the expert witness will know in Amitra's mind, she was in imminent danger. That's why she did what she did.
Right.
Because in her mind, he was going to kill her, period.
Exactly. Yeah, I moved away from my hometown after that. I moved away before he got out of prison, and I never went back.
Very good.
And so that is a feeling that lives with you, that you live with, that you're not safe. And so you just don't put yourself back in that situation, is how I looked at it.
Will he show up again? I guess that's your concern, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as you know, the most dangerous part for women in a relationship is when they do decide to leave.
When they decide to leave.
That's the
Yep.
most dangerous part of a relationship because that's when oh, no, you're not, where you're going. If I can't have you, nobody will. Who do you think you are?
Mm-hmm.
And then they try to guilt
Yep.
trip you. You can really leave me with this little baby here? And so forth. So all
Mm-hmm.
that kind of kicks in. But I tell you, it takes courage and it takes resilience. And you're a clear survivor who acted in your own best interest.
Yes.
Preservation is the first law of nature. It
Yes.
sure is. Yes.
And I had my kids too from my first relationship, so um, I had to make decisions for my children's sake. If I told
Right.
myself when I was still learning to love myself, I would say, well, if I can't do it for myself, I better do it for my kids because they're
Right.
totally relying on me and dependent on me. So
Yep.
at least make it for them, you know.
Did he have children
No, I was pregnant with his children, and then they
with his
died in the
child?
stabbing. Hmm.
Okay. Because
Oh,
that's
actually, I think after me he had kids, but I don't know anything
okay.
about his
Right.
life really because
Right.
he moved
So you're
away.
never part of a blended family. But what you say is interesting because remember the research said that when some men batter and they batter a pregnant woman, is because of the threat that they feel from developing embryo. Because now your attention is no
Wow.
longer him, is diverted to your health and your baby that's developing. And
Is that
this is
true even
like,
if the child is the abuser's own baby?
yeah, because even that's a threat. Even that's a threat. Because
Wow.
these people are
Wow.
attentive, seeking, thirsty, like someone I will not name, who's always thirst for attention. And if you're not giving it to him, then they feel somehow diminished. Because think about it, it's a modicum of a loss of a control to some degree, right? Because they're in total
Yes.
control. Who you calling? Give me your phone. Who you texting? Blah 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 blah. And now they don't have
Mm.
as much control because you're diverting it to your baby and your health. At the doctor's office, blah blah blah, and your best friend or whatever. That
That makes
diminishes
so
his
much
power to
sense.
control you. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's what that's about sad that the literature suggests. So
Hmm. Fortunately, I survived, but as in the case of this newsworthy story about David and Celeste, this is still playing out. But he wrote a song called
uh,
Afterlife. It was written or released in 2025 after she's not in his life anymore for whatever reason. Um, Something's
mhm.
missing from inside of me. Someone stole what wasn't mine. The devil told me you were good for me. My mother told me he would lie. What doesn't kill
Well,
you waits for later. What tries to keep you alive fails. I thought a girl would make me happy. Real love is not for sale. So I'll buy what I
right.
can as I try to pretend something else is making me cry when you cross the line. I'm still by your side. I crossed it with you. And when I die, you're holding the knife. I find that interesting. And when I die, you're holding the knife.
That
I'll
is
love you from the afterlife. I'll love you from
lovely.
the afterlife.
Huh.
Isn't that interesting?
That's almost creepy. Yeah. Wow.
It's very creepy. And that's why a lot of
Well, you
people
know what?
think that, he killed her. But it has yet to
Right.
be proven in a court of law.
It sounds a little bit like Guilty Conscience, from Eminem, right? Where I think Dr. Dre is his conscience, and in Guilty Conscience there are three stanzas or three segments. One talks about robbing a store and should he do it. Another time about raping a
Mm.
teenager who gets drunk off for hypno, should he do it? And the other one talks about murdering his
Wow.
wife, who he catches in bed with another man. Should he do it? And Dr. Dre and him are going back and forth. Dr. Dre's trying to talk him out of it, and he's just telling you about his regard for women and how distasteful they are and how he's going to do what he do because he's a man. So when you say that by David, life and stuff, maybe some of that speaks to a guilty conscience, right? Maybe some of it, like
That's
there's
interesting.
regret,
Mm-hmm.
there's kind of regret there that he didn't want to do what I guess, what he was inclined to do. But I'll
Mm-hmm.
have to look at it. That's a very interesting song. And what you're doing right now is fantastic because when I update this book, I'll have to include some of the latest lyrics on domestic violence and music, and he would certainly be one of the artists. Absolutely.
It's just fascinating because it's coming from the abuser's
Yeah.
side. His his art. This is an abuser's art.
Right, which is rare. Which is rare because talk
Rare.
about it is very rare, right? Right, because we said earlier that most of them are in denial and they don't accept responsibility. But he kind of realized what he's doing and the danger, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
collateral damages, not just the victim, but the collateral damages. So, because domestic
Yes.
violence talks about all the collateral damages too, that your children, your mother, your best friend who they think is nosy, your grandfather who was killed trying to protect you, the police who were killed and
Yes.
knocking your door to serve a restraining order, right? All that stuff, collateral
Mm-hmm.
damages. So maybe he gets the big picture.
Yeah, he even said in an interview before the body was found in his trunk, they asked him about his lyrics, and
Hmm.
one interviewer asked him, "Do you think that your lyrics are coming true in your life?" He said, "I hope
Hmm.
not, but I think they are."
Oh well. Well, if I'm a
Hmm.
woman, I would be careful not to date him.
I would
I'm
not
just
want to
saying.
date him.
No, I'm good.
But I don't
We can
think
be
people
friends.
saw it that way. He had so many fans. He was really going to be big. And he was throwing funerals.
I gotta read up on that. That is fascinating.
His tour is called the Withered Tour. It got cut after the body was found. But he was holding funerals. He had a casket on stage. He had this alter ego called Itami, which is Japanese for pain. And when he
Hmm,
was Itami, he would wear a blindfold and a white collared button down shirt with blood spattered on it.
really?
Yeah, it was crazy. It's
It's the
pretty
whole nine
crazy.
yards. Wow.
Hmm. So it's extremely fascinating for research, really.
So it is. He could be a great case study. Wow. So he's
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think
he's
you could write
almost
a whole
speaking
book
this
on
into
him.
existence. Yeah, that is
Hmm.
amazing. Do you know if he had a childhood of victimization or violence? Was
There's
he a
not
victim?
much known about his childhood. His parents are still together, and he has a little
Okay.
sister. And
Okay.
the yeah, we just don't know much about his life. And we know his mother is religious, but that's all I
Hmm.
know.
Right, because we argue that everything is learned behavior. The question becomes, well, where did this come from, right?
Oh, he's really, it feels like by the way he talks in all his interviews that he really resents being home educated. His parents took him out of school.
Ah,
Um, and so when should have been, having crushes on girls and developing social relationships, he was at home alone with the Fortnite game and
aha, I missed the video.
sneaking and watching gore and things like that. So,
But he
and
wasn't
he
an
seems to
incel, right? He
really,
wasn't like an incel or nothing like that. Did he? By incel,
um,
I mean involuntary celibates. These are people who are
I
sinning
think
against women
so.
because they're rejected by women and they blame women for their lack of affection in relationships in life. And they'll do anything to eliminate
Oh, I
them.
couldn't speak to that. I couldn't speak to
Right,
that
right.
for
That's what
him.
incels are about,
Yeah.
right? But
Okay.
yeah, so if he was homeschooled, well, maybe it's a form of rebellion. Form of
Yes.
rebellion,
Yeah.
right? When you say homeschool, then I'm going to have to open the door and say, well, we talk about adverse childhood experiences, right? We call them ACEs. And they
Hmm.
study so that almost everyone in America, yourself, myself, if you go to the list of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences that we have, all of us, about
Hmm.
12% of our population, experience about four of them, right? And they could be anything from things that happen to you personally, whether it's violent, sexual, whatever, the thing that happened to your parents, or the things that happen that the parents beyond your parents' control, like unemployment or death in the family or car accidents and things like that. And the question is,
Mm-hmm.
what extent are we affected later in life by the adverse childhood experiences? So if some of his ACEs as a child were violent or victimization or so forth, that could translate into some of his behavior or thoughts today. And again, maybe homeschooling did a number in terms of rebellion and resentment of his parents and so forth, or resentment of being controlled by a woman, because I'm sure his mother had a lot to
There
do
you
with
go.
school. Not too bad. You're not going to go there.
And it would
But
be
here's
really
another thought.
interesting to find out, why did they pull him out of school?
Right.
Was he exhibiting antisocial behavior, and was he having so many problems they just thought it would be easier to keep him home?
There
Who
you go.
knows?
Amitra, what if he was on the spectrum?
On the
What if
spectrum?
he's on the spectrum? Yeah.
Are you
Dyslexia and all
speaking
that
of
other stuff.
autism?
Yeah,
Oh
autism,
no.
yeah. What if
Yeah.
he's on that spectrum
Yeah.
somewhere where they knew that, look, you're not going to be socially interacting in school because, you're a little step behind and we don't protect you. We don't want you to be vilified or victimized by them rude ass kids in school. We're going to protect you because you're a baby and so forth. So if he's on the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
that maybe one of the, I don't know if he is or not. I'm just qualifying that. I'm just saying, but if that was the
And we
case,
don't know.
it
Yeah.
would kind of
It's all
radicalize their decision. Yeah. Yeah. So just a thought.
right. Right. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about the music therapy part because that's pretty
Okay,
good.
yes. Let's talk about healing.
I was about the good stuff,
Dark.
the positive stuff, right?
Dark. Yeah.
In chapter 10, I had all these wonderful songs about music therapy, and they're basically songs of liberation, and they basically change your mood and your mindset, and they give you something to cling on to. When I look at all the songs in there, I'll just name a few. I'm Here by Pink, I'm Still Standing by Elton John, Warrior by Patti Smith, Wide Awake, Katy Perry, Rise Up, Andrew Day, Shining Star, of course, Earth, Wind, and Fire, uh,
Mm-hmm.
Alive of Jennifer Lopez, I'm on Fire, Hellstrom, I Believe, Elvis Presley, Independence Day, McTina McBride, uh, Firework, Katy Perry, Fight Song, I love that song by Raquel Platten. This is my fight song, my da 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 da. Good Enough by Justin Smollett, Stronger, Kelly Clarkson, Survivor by Destiny Child. I mean, the list goes on and on. But the point is that with music therapy, what it tries to do is that it try to acknowledge what can it do to release you from the trauma that you experience. Because as you said earlier, Mitra, trauma
Mm-hmm.
kind of dysregulates the body's fight or flight, freeze responses. But music, right, especially rhythms, help calm the automatic nervous
Mm-hmm.
system, slow your breathing, reduce hyperarousal, and this helps you feel physically safe enough to engage in the healing process, right? Now, we use
Mm-hmm.
trauma-informed therapy, music as a form of trauma-informed therapy. We would basically, go through something about music theory, what it does, teach people how to breathe. In the first session, we have them maybe tap to certain beats and so forth. But basically, it's meant to restore your sense of control and choice. It's to give you, let's play the favorite song. It could be quiet, it could be serene, it could be upbeat, it could be staccato, legato, margato, whichever, beat or rhythm you like. But the thing about music theory and why it should work is that you are familiar with the harmony, you are familiar with the beats, you are familiar with the
Mm-hmm.
pulse, you're familiar with the chords, you're familiar with the octave, so you know where it's going. And that sense that you know this and it's
Yes.
refreshing to you and it's something that you're at home with, and that's why it gets
It's
your adrenaline flowing and it gets you on the road to recovery. That's what music therapy basically tries to do. It restores your sense of control and restores your sense of choice. Now, do you have a favorite song that you listen to that really motivates you?
Well, I have lots of favorite songs, but when I'm down and I can't get my mojo back, I
Okay.
play Jesse Johnson's song from the 80s called Free World. And because that bass line is so hitting and it just gets the fire, gets my juices
Right,
going
right.
again. It's like, nobody likes the way I live my life. They say it's too much like my friend. You know,
There you
it's
go.
fun. It's a free world and it's mine.
And you know where it's going.
Yeah.
You know where it's going. So that's your
Yes.
control right there. Yeah. Lowers your blood
Mm-hmm.
pressure, all that stuff. Helps you sleep better. Right?
Yeah.
Reduce anxiety, right?
Mm-hmm.
It also reduces a lot of
Mm-hmm.
cortisol in your body, right? Because when you're in the stress, your cortisol levels jump out the roof, right? And cortisol
Yeah.
triggers
Mm-hmm.
stress, and stress triggers inflammation, and inflammation gives pain. So all that cortisol is reduced
Yes.
through music. Now, if you read this book a little
Absolutely.
carefully, in the opening chapter, we have a young lady who's victimized as a child by her parents. Her father used to sexually molest her.
Mm.
The kid tells her mother,
Mm.
and this is on YouTube, by the way. The kid tells her mother, and the mother refuses to believe the kid. In fact, she says, "We're through. You're out of here for saying such a thing about your father. How dare you?" Anyway, the girl is like totally ostracized. She's vilified. She's the worst thing on earth. And as part of her recovery is that she remembered that prior to that, her mother taught her how to play the piano. So for her, playing the piano was a form of music therapy. And music therapy gets into all sorts of things. You can play the bongos or the drums. You could do whatever. You could tap out, like whatever gets you back in the game. Violins,
Mm-hmm.
guitars, saxophones, whatever instrument you can think about to get you back, including music and your favorite artist, right?
Oh
When my
yeah.
blood pressure is high, I listen to my favorite artist. I listen to it over and over again because of the
Mm-hmm.
rhythm of the artist, and I know the song. They're just so uplifting that it works. Now you may say, well, why not just do the obvious? Why don't you do like gospel songs and religious songs? I mean, what could be higher than that? And I thought about that, but I did not include religious music among the selections because I think that's a topic for like another day, if that makes sense.
Mm.
But if you think about the
Yeah.
goodness of God by C.C. Winans, the goodness of God, I mean, that should make everybody feel good,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or Come Jesus Come,
Mm-hmm.
also by C.C. Winans. That should elevate you too to a high level. So use some choices there. Use some choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mariah's song, I can't remember the name of it. It's such a good song, and she starts out with the minister reading a verse from the Bible, and along the lines of "No weapon formed against me shall
Sure. Right,
prosper."
exactly.
I think it's
Right.
called "Fly." Fly, it might be called. It's a
I
gorgeous song.
okay, I'll have to look at that up close. I'm sure I've heard it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess you say, well,
Take to the sky. I'm trying to remember it. I can't.
yeah, so yeah, therapy, healing. I mean, how do you heal from the process? I gotta ask you this. To me, you are a survivor of domestic violence, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But some of my students also bandy or throw the term around survivor, and I'm saying to myself, but what you described, what you
I'm
went through, is not the same. Are you really a survivor, like, or are you like
I'm or what?
not
Or are you
you,
like what?
not you per se? I'm talking about the students in my mind.
No, no.
Are you really a
Uh-huh.
survivor because, I don't know, you grew up in an abusive household. You were never hit, but you saw your dad push your mom down the stairs. And these kids are calling themselves survivors of domestic violence. I'm saying, well, gee, I'd rather reserve that term for someone who's been through the fire. What do you think about that?
Hmm.
Was everyone a survivor? I don't know.
I think that if it affected them a certain way, if it crippled them at some point and they
Okay.
felt they had to get over something, I think they are survivors
Okay.
too. I mean, I think it's probably a spectrum of survivorship. And I've gone past survivor to I want to be a thriver. You
Oh,
know, I
wow.
don't even want to identify as a survivor of
Survivor.
domestic violence. To me, that's something that
Right.
happened in a part of my life. And then I have fought hard and done the homework and the shadow work to figure out, what was it about me and my reactions or failures to act that
Right.
caused me to replay those patterns in my life. I'm an adult now. I have a choice. I don't have to keep repeating that, and I don't have to keep going through that. And so now I want to be more than just identifying with what I've been through and just saying I'm a thriver. I'm thriving
Right. Interesting.
because I choose to.
That's
Hmm.
a fresh perspective because most alcoholics, they say they're in
Hmm.
recovery. They never say they had fully recovered. So if we substitute
I
survivor,
hate that. I feel like, yeah,
okay,
uh,
okay, okay,
yeah.
yeah. So they suggest
I
that
hate that. I
you're
that
over it. You're
12
over it.
step
In the
would never
past.
work for me because I'd be
Right.
like,
Okay.
no, I refuse to identify with my weakness.
Right.
Like that's not a powerful position to
Yep.
me. I don't want to deny it either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's there. It will always be something that I could slip
Mm-hmm.
back into,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm choosing to say that I'm not. I've conquered that. Like that's over there. That's in my past.
Right.
It's on the shelf. I know it's there and I don't want to pick it up again.
You don't want to
I
marinate
already
in
read
despair.
that. I already been through that.
Right.
Right. Right. I
Right.
want to feel strong and I want to feel healthy. I'm healthy. That's what I would rather
Right.
identify with. I'm
Right.
healthy.
Right.
Hmm.
You
I'm
know what?
balanced. I
You know what song I regret not putting in the book, and it was an afterthought. I said, "How could you
what?
be so dopey not to include the obvious song?" I'll give you a hint. The song is by Gloria Gaynor,
I will
1978.
survive. That wasn't in
Yes.
there. I thought it
Now,
was.
now you can call me the absent-minded professor.
I
I thought
must
it
have
was so
brought it in
deep.
my head.
How could you not include the most obvious song about surviving? What were you thinking? So I said, in my next edition, I'm gonna
Well,
man up and throw it in there. Yeah, but
excellent.
that should be
Yeah.
empowering to a lot
Yeah.
of victims of whatever, right? I mean, really.
Hmm.
I don't know. But yeah, I think someone had asked me, well, why didn't I include Caribbean artists and things like that? And I said, well, I don't know. I've been to some of the Caribbean islands, and well, to be honest, as a tourist, most of their songs are renditions, if you will, of American music. Now, Marley
Hmm.
had a record called "No Woman, No Pain," and I don't know where he was going with that. I'd have to look at what exactly he meant by that.
I think it's
No
no
woman,
woman, no woman, no cry.
no pain. Right,
Yeah.
right. So I don't know where he was going with that, but that's just one example of maybe a song that I could have included. Uh, but none of them strike me right off the bat, to be honest, because I'm not really. Well, my wife is Caribbean and she likes calypso, but that's mostly like dance music and stuff. It's not really about domestic violence per se.
Hmm.
But her own family, my God,
Hmm.
so much domestic violence among her parents and aunts and uncles. It's just all over the islands. She's not from Jamaica, but in Jamaica, domestic violence there is off the hook. I mean, you mentioned infant partner homicide. It is
Oh,
ridiculous.
yeah.
It is ridiculous. Very sad and very
Mm.
ridiculous. So yeah, yep. And I don't know if
Hmm.
you travel a lot like me. Whenever I
Well,
travel, I always wonder. All right, here's the tourist view, but what's going on down the street or over the city or over there?
what's
What does
really
domestic
going
violence
on?
look like? Right,
Hmm.
right. So
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you're one person, and you can't include every single genre. There's so many. You
Right,
know. I
right,
think you do the best you can, and
right.
that's all we can expect from you.
Yeah, but there's been no backlash. Now, if you want to talk about backlash, let's talk about backlash for 1 second. There are two songs. Tammy Wynette, she's an old school country singer,
Hmm.
right? She got a song that, well,
Yeah.
he's just a man, right? So she got a
Mm.
lot of criticism for saying whatever he did, that poor little guy. Well, we expect a man. He's just a man, right? If you slap me around, he's just a man, right? So people thought that she diminished her victimization and almost, I guess, eviscerated him because, yeah, you're a man, but you're better than that, right? But so she kind of condoned his behavior.
Right.
Now let's go to Beyonce. I love
Hmm.
Beyonce. She's the anthem of women's liberation. But in her song, what song was that? I'm gonna find it 1 second. Where's her song, Beyonce? Oh, Drunken Love. Drunken Love. It's in chapter 9. She revisits. Yeah, let me
Yeah.
tell you something. She takes a page out of What's Love Got to Do with It with Ike and Tina Turner. let's go back to the movie. There's a scene where not only is Ike raping her in the studio, right? Forcefully raping her in the
Mm-hmm.
studio repeatedly, and they're at dinner, and if she don't does what he said, like I want you to eat this slice of cake, and I ain't gonna wait to 5 minutes from now, okay? And he said, you eat this cake. Well, I'm going, you know, whatever. Guess who take those same words and put them in their song? Beyonce. So I'm saying whoever told her to
Mm.
do that didn't really think about what that means and the import it carries in terms of women being violated. That was a misplaced quote or narrative in that song, right?
Mm.
Yeah, don't make me eat no cake just because we're having sex or whatever. That was just poorly done. So that's why I say
Mm.
sometimes you get so caught up in the lyric or the gyration or the beat, you become a slave to the beat and miss the whole message of the song.
That's true.
That's what we're trying to argue here, right? With all these songs.
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
Linda, what's being fed into your brain? Because you can dance to it all you want, but the message is not always healthy. So
True.
yeah.
When I was listening, even as a teenager, because I was raised with spiritual
Mhm.
principles, and when I would listen to Snoop Dogg and back in the day, I would get so mad that I liked his songs. It was so conflicting for me because the
Right.
lyrics are horrible and diminishing to me as a woman. And why am I listening? But his voice is so hypnotic, and the groove is so hypnotic, and it
Right.
just like it's actually pleasurable to hear something that's not good for you. It's
That's
interesting.
exactly right. Oh, now you know,
Hmm.
may ask yourself, what's being released in your brain that has you attracted to that to the extent that you'd ignore what's being said? That's why one of my co-facilitators in the VIP program thought that women were too much
Mm-hmm.
into sex. She said it.
Mm.
She said basically
Interesting.
the paraphrase is that they can endure the punishment if the sex is good. That's all I'm trying to say. And that's what she was saying.
Mm.
She thought that women, and probably men too, put too much emphasis on sex in a relationship that keeps them there or bonded for all the wrong reasons, including tolerating abuse and
Interesting. Or is it that they're equating sex with love and then they just want to get
violence.
back to the feel good part of it?
Yep,
Maybe
yep,
it's just a combination of all that. Just all mixed up.
yep,
It's all mixed up.
yep.
Hmm.
That's why
And
love is
then you,
blind. That Eve said, "It sure is blind. It sure is blind."
so do you think that an artist has a responsibility to not write stuff that diminishes women or diminishes any group? Or, I mean, do you think that that should be a rule? Or do you think,
Well, I think I think they're cross purposes. One's to sell records, right? For example, I wouldn't put the word
yeah.
Nigga in a song,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
yet I guess
Hmm.
that's the preferred term because that's what people are looking to hear. That's what gets your blood flowing. That's what jives, I guess. But I wouldn't pick that anyway.
Hmm.
I don't think they're doing it for economic reasons. And if it's appealing to
Hmm.
call women all these horrible things, I think it may not be their. Well, let me say this. If they are an artist, for example, Michael Jackson would never sing about women like that, right? Because it's not in his spirit
Right.
or soul to do that. So, regardless of money, even if he could make a
Hmm.
lot of money for it, but the other people, I think if it's not in you, it won't come out of you.
It's not gonna,
It won't come out of you.
absolutely. I think it goes back to voting with your dollar bills,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah,
If we
yeah,
stop supporting it, then there won't be incentive for artists to make that kind of music.
yes,
If they
yes.
couldn't make money doing it, I think they would stop doing it,
Right. And what's promoted?
you know?
If you're doing some of the black man of all people, that's the system wants to promote and sell, you just sold everything out. You sold everything. And not just in music, but in
Hmm.
other avenues
Hmm.
of life, right? If you can sell craziness
Hmm.
to young kids all day, and it makes you money, I mean, there goes the culture, there goes the people. That's what's expended. So I think so. But yeah, you shouldn't. I don't think you should make a song to diminish women, or or gay people, the LGBT plus Q community. I
Or
don't.
really any person.
Or any person, right?
Yeah.
Right. I asked
Yeah.
my student once, because I couldn't figure out. I said, "What race are you?" And she said, "Professor Ross, I'm a member of the human race." And I just shut up after that. So,
It's true.
so that's just
But it's
context.
just we're curious. It's
Yeah.
just so
Right,
it's
right.
always
Very
been
curious,
like
right. Yeah.
such a thing in America, right?
So where does your
Um,
first name come from?
so
Amitra. That's a very pretty name.
thank you. I actually chose it myself.
You judge it,
That's not
really?
my birth name, but yeah. And so I wanted an Egyptian name,
Wow.
but in researching them, they're so hard to pronounce and spell. And I just thought, nah. So while searching for an Egyptian name, I found a Persian name that was Amitra spelled with an I, and I spelled it with a Y so that it would have two meanings. Eastern would be nectar of the gods, and Western would be instrument of love. And
Oh,
I
wow.
felt like as a musician and a Gemini, it fit me.
That's so
And
cool.
then I lived with the name for about 5 years, and to make sure it wasn't just a phase. And then I
Right.
adopted it legally and updated my paperwork and everything.
That is wonderful. So
Hmm.
that's taking ownership. That's having
Thank you.
agency in who you are and what you are. Wow. I guess a lot of us black
Do you
people
mind
can.
if I write? Do you mind if I read a poem called Amitra? This
Oh,
is
no,
part
please read
of
the poem. Yes, of
recovering my
course.
self-identity. It's called Amitra. I'm like Bast, like a cat with 9 lives and third eye to watch over Egypt, the
Hmm.
spirit of which is like a brother to me. My Ka, I believe, will surpass me, and this home of my flesh and blood does not contain me, for I am ever and more than a human can see. I am destined to carouse with fate. I can't live with hate, for I am love, extraordinary, marvelous, Amitra, the goddess, incarnation of her, pure love, divine liquid, subtle, fine, intrepid. Amitra, I am called, feel my faith, behold my vision. Amitra, I am called, I'm arisen. The ancients have chosen, I have heard from them, in the howl of the wind. I'm brazen and bold, here to protect my kin.
Wow, wow, wow. That is a wow. That is a wow. Wow.
Thank you.
That is beautiful. Are
Yeah,
you on LinkedIn?
thank you very much. I am,
You should
and
post that
I'm
on
on
LinkedIn.
YouTube.
You should
Yeah?
yeah,
Okay.
post that on LinkedIn. That is awesome.
All right.
Wow. And maybe
Thank you
hashtag
so
it with,
much. I
if you
appreciate it.
hashtag it with domestic violence or anything that resonates from this, like music and about, with hashtag it with whatever, that you can relate to, people can relate to. I bet a lot of people will pick up on it. A lot of people. That's a beautiful song.
Oh, thank you for
Yeah, do that.
suggesting that.
Yeah, you deserved it. That's a
Yeah.
wonderful. Oh my Lord. How long did it take you to write, if you don't mind to ask? 'Cause it would take me forever to write
I have
something.
no idea. You know what? Different things. I also do independent music, and so every poem or song is different. Like some will come all at once. So
Really?
I had one song that I even booked the studio time, and I still hadn't written the bridge. Like I couldn't
Right.
come up with a change to save my life, and I was like, well, I can't keep putting this recording date off. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm making this date.
Right,
And the
right.
night before at midnight, it came to me.
Wow.
So all the songs are different. Some are really hard, and then some just come,
Are they
and
solos or
some
is
are in
it with
between.
are they duos or solos or what? Are your
Most of
songs?
my songs I sing myself, and I do the backgrounds as well
Oh
and the
wow.
harmonies.
That's a lot of work.
So, but I would like to get into. Oh yeah, it's great, it's fun. But I would like to do some kind of duet with someone like they used to have the kind that you remember, like Rick James and Tina Marie,
The
Fire
Love
and
and
Desire.
Desire,
Whenever they
Fire
would
and
sing together, it
Desire.
was just so magical, but talk about a toxic relationship they had.
Yeah. Or Endless Love.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful song. Endless
They,
Love with Diana Ross and Lionel
oh
Richie.
yeah,
Yeah,
endless
Endless Love.
love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With Jermaine Jackson and somebody else. He did
Or
work with
Don
When I See
Hathaway.
You, I See Your Eye. Oh, Donna Hathaway and Roberta Flack.
Mm-hmm.
Right, back together again. Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
wow.
yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah. Something amazing that would stand the test of time. I would love to be part of that.
Hey, do it now.
So,
Do it now while you're still young. So.
yeah. I'm not as young as you think I am.
Well, you look like you're young. So, my wife and I always
Thank
gonna
you.
travel now because we gotta do it now while we can because we'll always be able to
That's
travel.
right.
So,
That's right. While you have the health.
right,
Yeah.
because tomorrow is when we leave on our vacation, I guess. So yeah, and we're not gonna defer or delay. We're gonna do it tomorrow. So done. That's why I want to get this kind of
Wonderful.
complete before I left. So yeah, just so you know. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you being
Oh, I
here.
appreciate
I really
you. I
do.
learned a lot just from listening to you. I have a great context and feel for what you're going, what you've been through, and yeah, you can throw that survivor thing. You are a thriver. You're not a survivor. You're a thriver.
Thank you.
Without
You're a
question.
good listener.
Oh my.
Well,
Well,
maybe
thank
we'll
you so
have a
much for having
chance
me. It's been a pleasure.
to get together again someday. Yeah, I would love to have you again someday in the future when appropriate.
Yeah, but when you have something outrageous happen in domestic violence, that would always be a good time. Like something that's national news as related to domestic violence, so it'd be timely. So that's just a
Okay.
thought.
Thank you, Dr. Ross.